What everyday skill becomes suspicious if you're too good at it? Recognizing faces. I was approaching the check-in counter of a hotel I didn't remember being in before when the desk clerk welcomed me by name. I was visibly startled. His coworker explained he's got a freakish memory. I checked later, I had been there 3 years before. I once had a neighbor catch me while I was taking groceries out of my car and ask if I knew how to open locked doors as they locked themselves out by mistake. Went over to their door, took out a credit card, and shimmied my way in no more than 5 seconds. Probably was bittersweet for them. A couple of years ago I locked my keys in my car in a Walmart parking lot. I went in and asked if they could help me. 2 employees came out with a jimmy. The one guy made a bet with the other that he could unlock my car in under a minute. He then proceeded to unlock my car in 15 seconds. I told him thanks, you must have a lot of practice. To which he laughed and walked away. Eavesdropping. I just passively listen to other people a lot when I'm alone, even if I'm doing something else. It gets really embarrassing when you bring up information you heard from their conversation forgetting that you weren't involved, or when you laugh at a joke said by someone across the room. Edit, my previous grammar frustrated me. Tying a noose. At basic training I got tasked to help the drill sergeants create their haunted house battalion competition. Long story. My drill asked if anyone knew how to tie a noose, and I whipped out a perfect one in only a few seconds. He just looked at me and said, "Private. What the F?" Typing. I'm definitely going to say typing. I type at a little over 150 WPM. I've been repeatedly accused of faking it, which sounds funny until it's your co-workers and boss saying it, calling your work into question. Edit, holy crow. Thanks for my most upvoted comment. To answer a couple questions, I'm a writer. I use a QWERTY keyboard and I've been typing for a minimum of 3 hours a day for the past 16 or so years. My typing speeds have been measured in varying tests for work and school, the lowest coming in at 138 about 4 years ago, and middling out about 6 months ago at 154. The highest I've scored on any reliable test was 157 last year. Typing speeds like mine aren't all that uncommon. Certainly not as much as they used to be. Nothing special, I just type a lot. I find it much weirder that people find fast typing unlikely. I used to be a dispatcher for home hearing fuel in Juneau, Alaska, and when I meet people I'd say, "Oh, you live such and such street." I'd get an uncomfortable silence from them and have to tell them, "We deliver your oil." I work. Not me, but someone I know once mentioned to me back in their high school days, they were suspected of being a snitch because they would always be inclined to leave right before the bust happened. It wasn't that the guy was a snitch. He'd say that sometimes he just got a feeling, or he knew when a party was just dead. Some sort of sixth sense for this. Every time he got around to leaving, his buddies would usually follow suit, since they were usually the ones dealing anyways. I look at license plates. I don't know why, but it's every day for me. But for some reason I pretty much had the license plate of the girl I liked memorized. It was easy to remember, and we worked the same place together every day, so I saw it outlet. One time I almost slipped and said, "Hey, we are you driving out in today?" and almost mentioned that the truck's license plate looked just like hers. So by an incidental combination of being a gearhead and at one time a tow truck driver, I'm a little more observant when it comes to cars than most. I also have a knack for numbers and memorize things unintentionally. I've stopped mentioning to people that I saw their car somewhere or other, the movies for example. It's awkward explaining that I know your plate and can spot your POS. Centra from across the parking lot. Noticing details about people. I have moved around a lot and have worked in a lot of industries, one being in tourism. If I'm a tour guide and I notice a particular brand of clothing and ask someone if they are from a particular place and am right, it's me being observant and leads to a fun discussion. If I do the same thing in line getting coffee, it's considered creepy. I have very fast reading comprehension. People never believe me when I say that I've already read it and get frustrated that I don't take longer. I can't do simple math, but I read like lightning. I'm also very good with card handling, so everyone suspects that I cheat at poker. I encourage that because it keeps their eyes on my hands and not on my face. Anything borderline fancy with twirling knives. I carry and use my pocket knives quite often and have picked up ways to easily handle them. People either assume that I'm full weeb or a serial killer. Interrogating someone without them knowing. I was at a school thing and one of my girl classmates really liked a guy but was too nervous to talk to him. She asked me to figure out some of his info and I ended up getting first name, last name, school, hobbies, and grade level. She was happy, but more than a little creeped out about how casually I did it. Walking silently. It's always a good skill to have to be able to be quiet in a moment's notice, but do it too well, and you start appearing behind people and freaking them out. How long have you been there? Type things. I can make a sound that is identical to the sound of a vibrating smartphone. It's basically a low hum through very slightly open lips and across your teeth. I used to sit in class and make this sound, and people would freak out and check their backpacks or purses, and the teacher would get super pissed, since having a phone go off repeatedly is distracting. Cleaning blood from things. Every woman, especially moms, should have some ability here, but be able to help someone cleaning up after an accident or injury and get the surprised looks and side eyes. Hub is in the Edgar branch of the US military. Within a month of married, his whole shop was bringing bloodied uniforms to our house. F touch football and kitchen accidents read F Harry. But thank God for baking soda. I once went to a science convention / thing, and they had a rectoscopy simulator there. It was this camera snake cable thing that you feed into a ass hole in the machine, and a screen showed a fake camera feed from the tunnel, : I got such a good score that the woman at the booth said you must have done this before. Edit, I guess it's called colonoscopy. Anyway, most embarrassing high score. Butchering. I work professionally with raptors, the feathered kind, not the clever girl kind, and for a while I was prepping on average 15 quail a day, from frozen thawed to plucked and gutted and portioned. It's useful in the kitchen too, for ducks, turkey, chicken. I've also processed venison before. Then when people find out that I work at a landfill, I fly the raptors to keep the gulls out. They are suddenly afraid to make me mad. I have an extremely hard time tuning out other people's conversations, so if I'm in a room with a group of people all having different convos, I can pretty much be able to listen to them all at once without it jumbled. So sometimes I would know what people watch, or like, or don't like, because of this. It comes off as eavesdropping, but in reality I can't help it. So when I gift, give or talk to people about common interest, they seem surprised. Being sneaky. Many times in my life I've accidentally sneaked up on people at work or in stores. I get some really weird looks from people sometimes, like, where the F did you come from? Looks around. Out of items I intentionally cough, sniff, or shuffle my feet, so I don't scare people. Sometimes I hear other people walking, and it sounds like they're stomping around like they're mad, but they just walk like that normally. TLDR, walking. In dance there is a term called visual silence, which is just what it sounds like, a total lack of movement to a point that the audience is getting no new stimulus from movement. To accomplish this, you have to find a point of relaxation and engagement. Every day we sit still, or stand still, while listening to someone, but it becomes very suspicious when you are actually suddenly a mannequin. Why isn't he moving? He's just smiling and staring into the distance. WTF. Honestly, your job. I work as a consultant, which means I set my own schedule. If a client sets me up with some office space, cool. The problem is that the rank and file don't understand the nature of the arrangement. They see a dude with an office who only works 2 part days each week and they start to get jelly. It starts by complaining among themselves that I'm never here, then it become complain about whatever will stick. They just cannot fathom someone accomplishing more in a few hours than they do a week. Like, I didn't get where I'm by watching the clock and dragging my feet. Plebs. I'm pretty good with numbers and memorization. Sometimes people will give me a phone number and act all weirded out when I don't write it down or enter it into my phone. When I recite it back it's like I'm speaking an ancient Viking curse. People get so shocked. The best one is credit cards though. Show me a glimpse of it for 2 seconds and I can recite back the number and expiration date. People don't find that one so funny. I worked at a food service establishment that did delivery and we took credit card numbers over the phone to pay for some orders. After working there a few months and taking orders from our regular customers, I started to remember some of their card numbers and I would type them in while they were still reading them to me to save time. I figured it was a nice personal touch to remember their name and address based on the caller ID. I was a driver as well, so I knew how to get to everyone's place, but a few times I had to stop myself from going it's okay, I remember, when they were ready to pay.